My name is Roy Sewell. I haven't judged at Loudon since 2013. We've tried to get together a few times. It hasn't worked out. Um, I think the best way to understand who I am as a photographer is to look at my website. It's not hard to remember, roysewellphotography.com. Hard part to remember is it's Sewall. I wish you would take a look. I just get so excited when I get another person looking at my website. I got started by doing a couple of books on the Potomac and the C&O Canal. One's called Our Potomac. One's called Mather Gorge, Great Falls and Mather Gorge. These were published in 2005, 2009. That sort of launched me into photography. I became a professional in 2008. I'm an instructor for Capital Photography Center. I'm a member of the North Bethesda Camera Club, where I was president a few years ago. And I just absolutely love judging. I've studied it. By the end of these next few months, I will have judged local camera clubs 85 times.
Wow.
Which is, I'm going for the 100, and then I'm stopping. And another thing I like to do a lot is run critique groups. I think ultimately critique is the best way for people to improve their photography. I run about 20, 25 critique groups a year, either directly with people or through the Capital Photography Center. So that's pretty much who I am. Let me tell you my approach to judging, which has evolved over the years. I like to think of there being 3 tiers of assessment. The first tier is visceral reaction, your visceral reaction to the photograph. And I think all too many times when I listen to judges, they skip over that. So they'll get into, we got to crop it here and burn it down there, but they don't tell you how they feel about the photograph. So I think it's important for people to know how other people feel about their photograph. Tier 2, once I get past that, I think there are 4 things which are the key attractors of photographs: subject, composition, light, and color. Obviously, if it's a black and white, it's the tonal management of the photograph. I think those 4 things, subject, composition, light, and color, are what end up really driving our visceral reaction. At the 3rd tier is a list of some 60 different things that can go wrong with an image. And I couldn't sit there and name all 60. I could probably name 50, but I know it as soon as I see it. and I have actually do classes about those 60 detractors. Once in a while, you'll hit an image where there's such a showstopper in the image, there's really no sense going into the lower tiers of assessment, because you're just stopped in your tracks with something you see that's not working for you. So in terms of, I have reviewed all the images. I saw a lot of really cool stuff. I think I'd like to tell you the 3 most prevalent problems that I saw with the photographs. One was, and this is certainly not across the board, I'm just saying these are the 3 things that stick in my mind after having looked at all the photos. Lack of a compelling subject, lack of a unique point of view, and then thirdly, depth of field and focus problems. Those are things that you'll probably hear me talk about throughout the evening. But I'm not going to just harp on those things. We're going to talk about the strengths of photos too. I'm ready to go. Sam.
Okay, great. All right, I'll go ahead and share. All right, so what we're going to do is start with our novice color. And there's actually 19 in that one. So Cheryl, how many ribbons is he going to grant?
5 ribbons. So first, second, third, and 2 honorable mentions.
Okay. And Roy, anytime you want to give extra honorable mentions or even cut back, if you don't feel that there's enough for each thing, it's totally up to you. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, one more thing. I am going to go more gently on the novices
Okay,
and get tougher as we go through the higher ranks.
yeah, that's fine. And then as I go, just tell me when you're, I'll feel for it, but tell me when you want me to go to the next one. Okay.
Okay, so on this first round, I'm gonna comment on each photo as they pop up.
Okay.
Okay,
Alright.
let's go. So it's a moderately interesting scene. I didn't feel the scene particularly, I didn't find it particularly compelling. It has some interest. It's very low contrast image. Whoops.
Sorry, that was my fault. I was turning off my video. There we go. Sorry.
Um, the subject carries modest interest for me. The light is very flat. You can tell because the walls that are perpendicular to each other they have the same tonality. So there's no three-dimensionality, a lot of three-dimensionality missing in the photograph. As a result of the light, the colors are muted. The composition is fairly it's fairly okay, but it's a subject that's hard to really create an inspiring composition. Next, please. Here, a bit of the same comment. I don't find the subject particularly compelling. I did want to go look at some of these buildings, and it's interesting that they all have plywood in front of them. That fact is a little bit lost by the scale of the image. I found that, so the subject was moderately interesting to me. The light is really, really flat. Everything's kind of in the shade, so I can't really get a good glimpse of the things which I think you're trying to draw me to. I found the sky to be very bright and distractingly bright, so I wish it could have been toned down. Composition-wise, I thought the composition was fine, given that this is the subject, and let's move on from there. Next. Okay, here's a photo where I think the photographer is getting a bit more unique subject and something that's, I feel it's a bit more artistic than the prior two images. The color set is really cool. I really enjoy the colors. I'm drawn to the picture, but one thing that I think is a showstopper is it's out of focus. There may be a couple little things which are in focus here, but overall it's soft, and so I consider it a showstopper. I don't want to go farther with the image, just to tell the photographer you're on the right track. Go back there and shoot it again. Put on a tripod or pick up your shutter speed, but nail it up. And maybe next time this twisted twig coming down, you could have it not merge with the letter P, but be off to the side a little bit. I think that would strengthen the image. Next, please. I'm a little, right off the bat, my visceral reaction is that I'm overwhelmed with the color. The color doesn't feel natural to me. It feels overcooked by a long shot. So I think the gears are interesting. I sort of want to know more about the gears, especially the ones in the background, which are sort of out of the frame. Can you see my cursor? No.
No, we cannot.
Okay, so on the left side of the left margin of the photograph, from a compositional standpoint, the structure was cut into so that it just sort of nipped it off over there. Yeah, it nipped it off, and I'm very much a proponent for important shapes staying in their entirety in a photo if possible. Sometimes it's not the right thing to do, but for the most part, important shapes I don't particularly care to see cut off. Next, please. Here I was having a little trouble grabbing the point of the photograph. I think the photographer was drawn to the colors, which I get that, and to the the neat moss right dead center in the photograph. But I just am not finding the subject particularly compelling. Colors are sweet. I think the light here is adding a lot to the photograph if it weren't like it was. I think the photograph would lose a lot. Let's go on, next. So here, I want to like this picture. I'm not getting much excitement from this pipe fitting and this what looks like a drain. The two of them don't make a particularly compelling subject. I do think that they're beautifully lit. The color palette is really nice. The background being so far out of focus was a sweet touch. One of the things I actually saw quite a bit of in the novice category was the foreground here. There's a lot of foreground material which is out of focus, and it's distracting. My feeling is when you have out of focus things in front of your primary subject, it's a big risk. And I think the photograph would be stronger if you remove some of that. And try to avoid it altogether if you can. Next photo, please. This photo is close. I think it's very graphic. I love the shapes. I love the hole in the, I guess it's a door, and the golden light hitting the horizontal strut is very appealing. All that being said, so I'm drawn to the photograph, and I do have a sense of decay and beautiful decay. That's my visceral reaction. The composition is working. There's a little black hole in the upper corner. I think the photo would be stronger if that was filled in, because it feels like somebody sort of trimmed off the corner of the photograph up there. Now, what is a little odd in the photograph for me is the blue of the wood. I don't know if that wood has been painted and that's why it's blue, or if the photographer has just really oversaturated this image. You can say it's in the shade and got a little bit blue, but it just, I can't square that blue away unless it's blue paint, and I'm not sure it is. But a pleasing image for sure. Next, please. So here's a really interesting gear set. I think this is very graphic, especially 1/3 of the way in from the left. The way those gears are meshing and they're old. I find this rather compelling. What the color palette is pleasing. It's not overcooked, like meaning too saturated. The composition is working fairly well. But we have the situation here where, once again, you have big areas of the photograph in front of the primary subject that are out of focus. And I just would feel better if they were in focus. And I'm talking about the lower right corner and the last 15% of the left side, the left half of the image, left 15% of the image. It's just out of focus. The photograph would be stronger if those things in front of the primary point of the photograph weren't out of focus. I think the primary point of the photograph is where the gears are meshing. So I don't mind things getting soft as they go past that point, but in front of it, it's more of a struggle. Next, please. I just didn't think there was much going on here. It's a grill, and I guess there's the color is pleasing, but there's not much of a story here, so I didn't feel moved or I didn't get much of a visceral reaction for it. The composition is fine. The colors seem a little bright on the upper half of the photograph. The light's a little bright. I think the rich part of the colors is the band about 60% down from the top going vertically across, I mean horizontally across. That's where the rust, the orange is hitting the black. That's the nicest part of the colors. But I'm not particularly moved by the subject. Next, please. So this is a great structure. There's no doubt about it. And because we don't see stuff like this, and so it's really novel and fun, and I'm guessing this is Ireland or something like that. I don't know exactly where it is, it doesn't matter, but I'm attracted to the structure. The photograph appeals to me by the subject appeals to me. Now, in terms of color, it feels to me that the greens are all overcooked. Grass just doesn't look like that. So I encourage people, especially novices, not to get carried away with that saturation slider. I think that's what happened here. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the grass really is that green. It just doesn't look real to me. I think this photograph, from a composition standpoint, it would have been stronger if there was a little bit more breathing room on the left and right of the photograph. It feels awfully tight, so the building feels squeezed. We don't have any sense of what kind of space it's in because it's so tight. And then I think correspondingly, there's more sky than we need to tell the story. So lastly, the light is flat. And perhaps the photographer saturated the photograph to compensate for the flat light. But you can tell by these orthogonal walls, meaning walls that are perpendicular to each other. The two walls have exactly the same tonality. So that's a clue that the light is dead flat, and it takes away the three-dimensionality of the building. So what can you do? Maybe you didn't have much time to be there, but you know, better light would have helped this photograph. Next, please. It's an amusing poster for sure. Everything about it is amusing. I think my showstopper with this image is the photographer didn't really bring any of his or herself to the scene. They just photographed something that was there, somebody else's art, and didn't bring their own personality or unique point of view to the scene. So I don't feel it's particularly original. And that's, I would consider that a showstopper for this photo. Next, please. Have the same general feeling about this that I did about the earlier pipe fitting and the drain, although this is a bit more graphic and a bit more appealing to me. I think that the shape isn't particularly compelling. The leaf helps a lot. This crack going down to the lower right corner helps a lot. The treatment of the background helps a lot. I think a little more depth of field would have benefited this photograph because that black space to the immediate right of the pipe, it would have been nice for that to be sharper in there. So I think this was on the right track. Nice color palette. The blues and the browns go nicely together. Next, please. Lovely door. I think there's a lot of things about this photograph that are going well. the texture is quite appealing on the bricks and on the door. I think the fact that there's some shadows on the door doesn't bother me at all. I really like the leaf shadows in the upper left corner. So I'm drawn to this photograph more than most of the others. From a composition standpoint, um, the door is sort of pointing off to the right. If you see what I mean, if you came out of the door and went straight out the door, you'd end up going to the right. And so I think it might be helpful to have a little bit more brick to the right of the door than to the left of it. And in fact, on the very left edge, there's a tiny edge of where the brick goes around the corner. And it doesn't help the image to have that little thin sliver of brick. So I think the composition would be helped by removing a little bit from the left side. The photograph is a little bit harsh, little contrasty. So it might be interesting to play with the contrast and see if they can take that harshness out. And I don't know where the sweet spot is, but that's what we all have to experiment with. But this photograph's well on the way to being a strong image. Next, please. I presume I'm looking at a fire hydrant or something of that nature. I think the photographer saw this as a collection of colors. I don't think the shapes are particularly compelling. Overall, the subject is a little, it eludes me a little bit. I think it's awfully bright down at the bottom, which draws my eye down there, and I get down there and there's nothing there. So I find myself not quite sure what the story is or where you want me to look. So I feel the photo is a little bit vague. Next, please. This looks like the photographer didn't take much time to consider how to frame the picture. The whole thing's leaning over. The light is not helpful because it's not hitting the face of the building, but mostly it feels like a walk-by photograph. And the building is compelling, but the photographic execution, I'm afraid, is weak. Next, please. I had a neat reaction to this photo. This, if you've ever spent any time in farmland, this just takes you right back there. These two shapes are marvelous. I think what really makes this photograph sing is the light on the left sides of these silos and of the small silo on the back. A touch of trees on the right is a nice touch. From a composition standpoint, I think it's working well, except I think there's a little more sky than is needed. I'm not a fan of repeated open spaces with nothing going on in them that just go on and they don't, there's nothing that contributes really to the photograph. And sometimes it's a repeated thing, like leaves just go on, leaves and leaves and leaves. In this case, it's just more sky than I think is needed. And I think if you composed it differently without so much sky, it would give a little bit more sense of space that these things are in. Overall, a lovely image. Next, please. This is somebody else's art. It's a straight shot of somebody else's art. The photographer didn't really bring any of his or her own point of view to the image. I can see why the photographer was attracted to this shape, but there needs to be some sort of unique point of view for this to work. Otherwise, it's just a photograph of somebody else's artwork. So I think that's a showstopper. Next, please. I think the photographer is close here. This, the light is the magic of this photo. The light and then this handle are really working together, and the color palette is really cool. This gold color with the gray, I feel they're really working together, and then the dark gold within the gray, all these colors are working together. By now and this sweeping, curving shape as you go up from the handle, how it sweeps up and to the right and up is really graceful. As you probably will guess by now, I am not a fan of this big triangular out of focus thing in the front on the lower right. It's just in the way of the story. It's not contributing anything. It's consuming, what, 20% of the picture space? And the photograph without that, and maybe you can't get it without that, but then you have to go do something different. Maybe this is a fender for all I know, but if that weren't in the picture, I think it'd be a lot stronger. Next. I kind of smiled when I saw this. It's a familiar sight. I don't think there's much story here. I thought the apple was, I think the whole photograph is a bit harshly lit. The apple is burned out in a few places, and so it's sort of glaring in my eyes. It's not a particularly strong story, although I did have a smile when I saw this photograph. Not enough going on here, I think. Next, please.
I think that's the end of that.
Okay,
So,
let's go through them, and I'll quickly make a first cut pass.
okay. Do you mind if we do it at this level, this size?
That's fine.
Okay, because then I can mark them.
Okay.
Okay.
This will be out.
Okay.
This will be out. This will be out. 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 In. In. Out. 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 In. In. Out. Out. In. Out. 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 I hope that my comments earlier would make it clear to you why I'm taking photographs out, because I wasn't planning to come back and talk about them much more.
Right.
So was I supposed to have 5 in?
You are supposed to have 5 for this one. So if you'd like to do 1, 2, and 3 and 2 honorable mentions.
Yes. Number 1 is going to be the silos.
Okay.
Number 2 is going to be the blue door.
This
no,
one, I'm sorry,
yeah.
this is number 2.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay.
Number
Got it.
3 is going to be that door, the gold door.
Okay.
Number 4 will be the third picture.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Honorable mention.
Honorable
is,
mention, and then
and that
honorable
one's the
mention.
honorable mention. Yes.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. So Cheryl's going to go honorable mention to the first, and then give us the artist, and then they can say something about their piece if they'd like to.
Okay, first one is the drinking fountain by, let's see, Lana Karen.
Are you online? Nope. Okay. So next one is
One is the Rusty Gas Cap by Pam Miller.
oh, Pam. Yay. Pam, are you online? Okay.
Aw. Because Pam also had the third place as come in.
Awesome. And And then second place.
Second place is Blue Wood by LaDuca.
Oh, Rick. And I
Yeah.
saw him on.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Roy, you were correct. That was a blue barn. The whole barn was painted blue, and that's not a door. That's actually a hole in the side of the barn.
Okay,
Very cool.
yeah, very, very nicely done work.
Yeah. And then first place.
It's Rusty Silos, but I didn't get the photographer's name.
Oh no. See, that's why we asked for you to put your name in there.
I'll take it.
Does anyone want to claim it?
It's me, Shannon Gilmore.
Oh, Shannon. Good job.
Thank you. Those are my neighbors' silos here in Philemont. So I have
Oh,
many pictures of them.
Lovely. All right. Well, good job, everybody. All right, we'll move
Thank
on
you.
to novice monochrome. This.
14 images here. So there is first, second, third, and one honorable mention.
Okay.
Wait, let
What-
me I'm going to resort these. Hold on. I don't know why it's Oh, I guess it is. I'm sorry. I was looking for number 1. It's number 20. Never mind. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, first reaction is nice idea. The main object of the photo, the machinery with the gears, looks out of focus. I think the boards in the front are more in focus. The whole picture seems tilted. I think more careful execution would have helped this photograph a lot. There's some burned out areas too. So not enough going on here that's working. Next, please. I rather thought the photographer did a good job on this image. First of all, he or she balanced in the composition, the location of the building with the cloud in the upper left corner. That feels balanced to me in terms of visual weight. I felt that the shadow in the front of the building was a little dark. I wish I could see a little bit of detail in there. But the tonal control of this image is quite lovely. And I think the subject was handled well, where you can see, I mean, I think if you moved over a foot or 6 inches, you might not be able to see through the building like you did because the bars would be knocking into each other. So I think this is a well-seen image. Next, please. I think the notion here is good. I think it's, I'm not quite sure what this object is, but it sort of raises one's curiosity. I'll put it that way. I think the problem with it, it got lost, not because there's a lot of reeds, but it got lost in terms of the tones are so common throughout this whole photograph. It's hard to make things, hard to see things jumping off the page. The object itself is certainly a little bit darker, but overall there's just so much stuff which is the same tonality. The whole bottom 25% is just the same thing. The whole upper 40% is the same thing right across. Maybe coming in closer would have strengthened the image. If you do, make sure you don't cut off the right tip of this structure. You know how I feel about important shapes not being cut off. I do appreciate this, a nice sharp image. Next, please. Not enough going on here to, create a strong visceral reaction. And the tones are so similar between the post and the background. For example, if you darken down the background, the post would be more stand out and be more interesting. But the tonal control here is quite an issue. Let's move on. So this is a cool subject. I don't know. this was a bad day for somebody. So I appreciate that. We've all had really bad days, and this is a really bad day for somebody. Uh, what troubles me about this photograph is it's out of focus in the leftmost third of the photo. The track looks nice and sharp. The boards on the ground do. I can't explain why this happened. I don't think that train is moving by. The other thing is the light's a little flat. I think this photograph would benefit from more contrast to make things stand out more. The train has the same tonality as the woods, which means it doesn't sort of stand out from the page. So let's move on. Now, here's an example of the photographer bringing his or her point of view to the scene. I bet 10 photographers would come up to the structure and not take this shot. Maybe 95 out of 100 wouldn't take this shot. This is a unique point of view, and I really respect that. And it creates an unusual image. I mean, this is, how many times have you seen this? So I like that. I think the tonal control is strong, a strong subject, but mostly I appreciate the artist's vision here about, I want to do something different. I like that. Next, please. I want to like this image. I'm very attracted to the machinery down in the lower part of the image with all these gears and the first big circle. Outside of that, the image loses a lot of interest. I can see that this outer rim, it might feel like it was important, and I appreciate the photographer got the whole thing in, at least, you know, from left to right. The background is very distracting. The ground is apparently tilted. The building is oddly tilted. I don't quite understand its relationship to the ground. I'm not sure who's tilting and who's not. But anyway, I don't think that the photographer really wants me to go look at the building and the trees in the back, but I can't help it. The sky is blaring white. I really think this, if you moved in a lot closer to this image, it would be stronger. And then don't cut off the bolts at the bottom of the photograph, because they're an important part of the story. Next, please. This is a pretty different point of view. I appreciate that. There's sort of a human aspect to the thing. It's awfully tightly cropped along the top and the perimeter and the left and right. I'm not sure if the photograph would be stronger without that. Something seems really out of focus. I think it's the radiator and the lenses on the headlights seem fuzzy. So there's this is an execution problem, not a vision problem. I think the photographer had good vision. I think a little bit more room around it and more attention to depth of field and sharpness would have been helpful. Next, please. Nice tones, by the way, nice tonal control. I have a similar comment here. The sharpest part of this picture is where it says Ford. And yet we have a large object that's commanding a lot of attention over here on the right. This light just doesn't seem sharp. Plus it's near the right margin. So I'm pulled way away from where it says Ford all the way over to here. And yet when I get there, it's not sharp. So I think this is a question of two things competing with each other. And I think the light actually wins the competition for attention. Next, please. Interesting building. I think it's an American building. I really like the shape of the building, so I'm drawn to that. From an architectural standpoint, These lines need to be straightened up. The vertical lines in architectural photographs really ought to be vertical. That's a pretty easy thing to do in Lightroom. Everybody needs to know how to do it. It's an incredible tool in Lightroom. This thing's leaning to the right, just doesn't feel natural. That's one issue. The other issue is this vast space between this structure on the left and the structure on the right, the chimney. There's vast space with nothing in it, and that space is consuming a third of the picture space. And there's nothing there. So if the chimney were a lot closer to this other structure, it would be a much stronger image. But there's just this hole basically in the photograph. Next, please. Yeah, this is pleasant. I'm trying to sort of think about how it compares to the other door pictures. Not that I don't think it has the appeal for me of the other two door pictures, not because it's black and white, but because the tones in the lower half of the picture are not separating the different objects from each other. I think when you do black and white, it's so important to use burning and dodging to separate objects from each other so they can jump off the page or sort of disappear back into the background. And here it's a little bit hard to read where the door is and the end of the wall is just a little hard to read. Also, that white triangle on the top, on the upper right, is pulling my eye, and I go up there and there's nothing there. So it's a frustrating thing to have in the photograph. Next, please. So on one hand, well, this is a great building. On one hand, it's a pretty straight shot of the building, although I do appreciate that the photographer made sure to get two walls. A lot of times people just shoot and just get the front, one wall. And actually that other wall is almost more interesting because of all the vertical striping in it. I like the tree on the back right. I think it's adding a lot to the story. If this was just a white sky, I don't think the photograph would be as strong. I think the tones are managed nicely in this photograph. See a lot of separation and a lot of detail. It's nicely focused. Next, please. This is a straight-on shot of a nice building. It's kind of cool that it's starting to lose some boards off its roof on the porch roof. So there's definitely deterioration, but it's just sort of a straight-on shot. Also, this is a case where the bottom 25% of the photo is overpoweringly bright, and there's a lot more grass there than is needed to tell the story. So I think removing a lot of that grass and darkening it down so it's not, the bright areas in a black and white photograph are going to pull attention. There's not, we human beings can't help ourselves. We're going to go look at the bright things. And you get there and it's just grass. So I'm not sure you want me to really focus on the grass. You want me to focus on the building. So that's the challenge in black and white, is to use your tonal control to get me to look where you want. Next, please. Cool building, a sort of, the tones are surprisingly nice in the building, but notice how the tree and the building have just about the same tonality. So this is a case where you got to go work the image. The white sky in the upper right corner is hurting the image in that it's drawing my attention and there's nothing there. It sort of feels like the photographer just walked by and took a quick image and then kept going. So it doesn't look like a crafted image. Next, please.
That's the end of that one.
Okay.
Okay. So do you want to go ahead and do the in out?
Sure. This is out.
Okay.
In. In. out, out, in, out, 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 in, out, out.
Okay.
I might not have made enough selections.
Cheryl, is this, oh,
Four. First, second, third, and one honorable mention.
perfect. Okay.
That is what you needed?
Yeah, we need 4. Yeah.
Can you, okay. First place is going to be the third picture.
Okay.
Second place will be the first picture. Third place will be the fourth picture.
All right.
All right, so honorable mention, let me see, is Hank Baylor. Oh, it's Hank, and it's a Baylor.
Oh,
I'm like, who's Hank Baylor?
yeah. Hank, are you on? Okay.
Yes,
There you are.
that's a park in Rappahannock County. I was walking down by the Rappahannock River and there was this old baler in the field and took a picture of it. And appreciate the comments, Roy, that you made about the common tonalities in those different areas. And I did walk around the thing quite a bit, but really couldn't find a good way to isolate it. So
Yeah, I can imagine. It's a tough subject.
Okay. Third place.
Third place is Shannon Gilmore, Wine Woods.
Excellent. Congratulations.
Thank you. Just an old farm in Fauquier. I was just walking around and it was one of those days where there was just nothing but blah skies. So,
Great for black and white.
right.
So Shannon, I would go back on a day when there's better light and work this and maybe get a little bit more of that other face of the building. I think you're onto a really good subject.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Second place.
Second place is called Bare Bones. Heritage?
It's Carolyn.
Carolyn.
Okay, Carolyn.
Yeah, that's a barn that was out in the Palouse. They had started recycling the external boards on the barn.
Beautiful. It's really cool.
Thing.
And I like the cloud too. That's cool. And first
I didn't
place.
notice that until I processed it. So
Oh, really?
yeah, that was a bit of luck.
Okay, the first place is Rick LaDuca. Those are Lisbon roof trusses.
Awesome.
That was a convent in Lisbon that lost its roof in an earthquake in the 1700s. And I just took that shot looking straight up.
It's very cool. It's like a spine, like,
Nice vision, Rick.
Thank you.
yeah, great job, everybody. All right. Are you ready to move on to the next
Oh, yeah.
group? Okay, we're going to do intermediate color. And you can critique as much as you like, but if you want to do these less, they're a little bit more advanced.
Yeah, I'll probably
And
be a
this
little
one-
tough. I'll be a little tougher.
Yeah, and this one has 22, so I think you're going to be picking how many, Cheryl?
It's 5 for second,
5 for
third,
this.
and 2 honorable mentions.
Okay,
Oh, let me make sure these are in proper order. I think they are, but let me just double check. Yeah, okay. All right.
immediately attracted to this image. I just think it's fascinating. The colors are striking. They are attractive. There's a lot of graphic quality. The shadows are working for me. So this photograph's got a lot of punch. Next. Wanted to like this photo. I think there's a depth of field problem here. Only some of these horseshoes are sharp. Like the one on the right is soft. We really needed them all to be sharp. Also, there's not enough light on the horseshoes. So this may be one of those things where you have to wait out and find a better time to do it. I like the idea, but the execution's not working for me. Pretty cool image. I think it's a good point of view. And it's a grand old train. I appreciate these trains, and I think the light on the train is awfully flat. And it's certainly not on the front. I feel like there's more sky than is needed to tell the story from a composition standpoint. But it's a good subject, strong subject. Next. I don't know what's going on here. I hope it's not a pastry. But if you're trying to draw me to this object, it needs to be more in focus. So it seems to me that only the green part is even remotely sharp, and the rest of this thing is or maybe there's a little bit of sharpness in the bottom. I don't know where you want me to look except for where it's in focus, and I'm losing sight of what the whole thing is. So I don't think it's working from an execution standpoint. I appreciate that the photographer saw some kind of cool lichen with some really strong side lighting. I don't think there's enough of a story here. Maybe it would have been a good idea to get closer into the lichen. Plus we have this big out of focus object in the front consuming what, 10% of the image. The rest of the light where there is no lichen isn't really contributing much to a story. So I think this might have been a case where it would have been helpful to get a lot closer. Next, please. Not enough going on here for me to get much of a visceral reaction. It's pleasant, but nothing notable for me. Colors are nice, light is flat. I think we all have to seek great light. Next. This is cool. Despite the fact that it seems over-processed, over-sharpened, I wish the photographer had not taken it that far. And I don't know exactly what the photographer did, but it seems a lot crisper than necessary. And I think a straight shot would be fine. But I like the graphic shapes. I'm intrigued by them. I think it's a compelling image, great color palette. Composition's good. I think the composition would be stronger if the hub in the lower right were not kissing the margin. There was a little space around it. It's a fairly minor point at the intermediate level. Love the white band on the tire and how it matches the lichen on the thing. It's a very intriguing image. Next, please. I think what the photographer saw was the skull in the truck, and I don't think that's enough of a story to drive this picture. This is not a particularly compelling view of the truck. And the skull is small enough that I had to really look at that a couple of times, say, oh, there's a skull there. The light is kind of flat. I think this is not working for me. Next. I want to like this picture a lot. It's the mood is grand, the light is grand, but there isn't a sharp pixel in this picture. And I find myself talking a lot about sharpness tonight, and I'm not sure why the issue is coming up so often tonight, because it's not my standard thing is to beat up people on sharpness, but I just feel that for some reason tonight, there's a lot of photographs with this issue. If this was sharp, it would be really cool, but it's not making it. Next. I found this to be quite artistic. I think here's a case where the photographer saw something that 100 people would walk right by. 100 people with cameras would walk right by this, not even notice it. And the photographer saw a graphic pattern and some very subtle shades and colors and made a story out of this. And I think that was imaginative. As you know now, I really appreciate when the photographer brings a unique vision to a scene. And I think this is that. I kind of wish that gold rectangle were somewhere else in the image, but I'm not going to go too hard on that. I think the color palette is absolutely gorgeous. So the light is flat, but this is one of those photographs where I think the flat light is okay. And it would be very different if there was a lot of strong side light, but that's not the point of this image. So I'm okay with it. Next. This looks like the Potomac Canal in Great Falls. Not enough going here. This is sort of a documentary image of the lock gate. The light is not interesting. I think if the light were interesting, it would be a good documentary photo, but it's not artistry here. Next, please. Gee, a lot of fun stuff in this image, and there's not a darn thing that's sharp. It's just making me crazy. I wish that, I mean, maybe there's some sharpness in the text on the book way in the back, but the screwdriver or whatever that is, not sharp. The can of paint, it's I don't know where to go. It's colorful. I kind of want to go around and see what's going on. It looks like old stuff, but everywhere I go, I can't quite make stuff out. Next. This reminds me of the photos we saw earlier. I think the part of this image which is sharp is where you want me to go. I have to interpret it that way because that's where I will go. That's human nature, is I'm going to go where it's sharp. And I think this photograph would benefit for a lot greater depth of field. Even this button on top of the round disc would have been helpful if it were sharp, but I'm lost as to what you want me to see. Is it this wall in front? That seems a little sharp. Is it the front edge of this disc? Not enough going on there to capture my interest. Beautiful color palette, and maybe that's what the photographer saw, but the execution's not working. Next. A pretty straightforward shot. There's nothing particularly unique. This is an emblem shot. It is awfully bright in a number of areas, and that's drilling into my eyeballs. I think if you had a group of photographs of emblems of cars, it would fit in with that. But as a standalone image, it's not carrying much interest. Next, please. I think what the photographer saw here was colors in this ironwork, and that's really the picture. And I don't think that's enough to capture the viewer's interest. They are beautiful. The beautiful colors, the light is beautiful, but just not enough going on here to create much of a visceral reaction. Next, please. Yeah, I had a pretty cool reaction to this photo. This is different. I'm not sure what this is. Maybe it's a boat. I don't know about the blue red light thing. The decay on the top of the chrome is cool. As you can imagine, I wish the whole thing were sharp. But fortunately, the part that really matters, which is the front of it, where the red and the blue lens are, and that little copper colored ridge are sharp. It almost looks like a horseshoe crab on the beach. So I thought it was an intriguing, more interesting than most type of photo. It is dead center. I think it'd be helpful to take it off dead center a little bit. Next, please. This is a really beautiful rose. And the plants around it are gracefully decaying. I think the color palette is exceptional here. So what troubles me a bit is the composition. The rose is dead center. There's a lot more visual weight on the left side of the photograph than on the right, yet the rose is dead center. Also, the rose is looking off to the upper right, which suggests that maybe there should be more room on the right than there should be on the left. I think this one's worth working the composition with. And also, I would tone down the really hot spots in the flower, in the rose, because they look like they're burned out. And I think you're close, but the photo needs more work. Next. I could not grasp the point of this image, and nothing is sharp. Maybe it is meant to be an abstract, but I don't feel it's a compelling image. Next. So I'm sort of curious about what the red thing is. It looks like a soda machine. I don't know. So my curiosity is raised, and I like the wall on the right. I think a couple things are hurting the image. One is this pull right down the middle of the image. I think that we've found out from studying human behavior. By the way, I do not believe in photographic rules. I believe there are no rules. There are only observations of human nature. And we've observed that humans tend to not like pictures with a strong vertical line right down the middle of the photograph as much as when the vertical line is moved off to the side one way or the other. So I think that's put the photograph at a lot of risk. Also, the building is just architecturally leaning over, and maybe the photographer was trying to fight with, do I straighten the red thing or do I straighten the building? But I think the building needed to be straightened. So those things are significantly impacting the image. Next. Not enough going on here to create much interest. It seems very ordinary. Maybe I'm missing something, but I don't see anything out of the ordinary in this picture. Next, please. I kind of like this guy. I think this is a case where the photographer had a point of view which raised the value of this car a lot. This is a clever view of an old Studebaker. There are things which could be stronger about the image. I think, I wish there was better light. I wish the photographer had given more room on the right, because the right side is awfully close to the chrome triangle, and on the left side, there's a bit of room. I wish that the top of the car had, the hood ornament had been included, and the roof hadn't butted into the sky. These are all compositional things. It's a little tight. It's not the sharpest image in town. It's not bad in the main ring and the star in the middle, but as soon as you get to these two things on the side, it gets soft. And so, but I really want to credit the photographer for doing something different. Next, please. I think the point of this image is the colors in the chair. That part of the chair is out of focus. So my eye is not going to the place which I think is where you want me to look. And the chair on the right is distracting. I think this would have been better to be a vertical image. Just focusing on the one chair and getting the whole chair in it. Next, please. Next.
I wonder if that's the end because it won't let me go forward. Let's see.
Oh.
Yep, that was the last one. All right.
In,
Okay.
out, in, out, 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 in, out, out, in, out, 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 in, out, 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 in, out. How many am I supposed to have?
5.
5?
Yes.
5.
And you have
put 'em all-
6.
I counted 7.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. You have 7.
Okay, so I'm going to remove the train.
Okay.
You're up against some tough photos here.
Let me see if I can get it. I don't know if you can see it better.
The next one's painful. I really wish that rose were better composed, and the Studebaker. I'm going to pull the Studebaker. I hope the photographer goes back and works this again and does a better job. Okay, first place is going to be the first photo.
Okay.
Second place is the second photo. Third place is the third photo.
All right.
Okay. Let me move my image. Okay. So number, let's see, 49 is a rose, Greg DeCure.
Greg, I saw you online, I think.
Yeah, I'm here and I can't quite figure out why my wife was upset when I gave these to her for Christmas.
Oh. Good job.
Let's see, next honorable mention is called the Hood Ornament, and it's Elizabeth.
Hi, Roy, thanks for the comments. I appreciate it. Yeah, and this is the top of, it's a hood ornament on top of an old car in a classic car show.
Oh, blue and red lenses.
Interesting. All right, third place.
Number 3, Jack Brennan, and this is Loch Lusa. Ooh, really?
This was a surprise to me. It's the inside of a building that was called the Granary at Red Rocks outside of Leesburg. And I looked in there and went, oh.
Is that the one where it drops off?
It's right by the parking lot.
Yeah,
know.
but when you look in, like you would, if you tried to get in there, you'd fall. Like there's no floor.
No, the floor is just out of, well, not
Okay.
floor, the ground is
Yeah,
just
ground.
out of view below the image.
Beautiful.
But, and decay was the theme, and obviously decay has occurred here, and yet it was like something had sort of grown and
Yeah, that's cool.
developed, and it was like, oh, well,
Well done.
Great
Dave.
job. Great job. All right, second place.
Second place is called the Cafe Delivery Truck, and it is Patricia Berry.
Oh, great.
That was as I said in the title, it was in the Smoky Mountains. And you're right, I do need to recrop that a little bit with that lower right with the hub. I just kind of was looking at the curves, which is what I like with the curves and the colors. Thank you.
Did you do much processing on that?
I did, and I guess I overprocessed it.
Yeah, I think it's a little overdone.
Is it? Okay, I'll
Beautiful
change
colors,
that too.
though.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And
I really like the image. That please don't get me wrong, Patricia.
No,
Strong
I
image.
thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
And then first place.
Is Christine, my drawers are rusty.
I'm here for the puns, but yeah, I went to Lucas like I think half of Photo Club did, but yes.
Excellent. Yeah, Lucas is full of some great surprises.
There was a gentleman there that kept going, "Why are you photographing all this? Are they paying you to photograph this junk?" And I was like, "No."
You should have said it's beautiful and walked away.
I think he thought I was crazy, but it worked out.
Really good vision.
Next category, there's 21 images. So again, it'll be 5.
Okay.
I'm really disappointed. I thought there would be a lot more comments about Christina's rusty drawers.
She always has the best titles.
She does have the best titles. We should have a special award at the end of the year, Christina. Get ready.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so I think this photograph right away is not working for me because of this big black hole on the bottom right. If there was a tire there or something, even hiding in the shade, it would be better. Also, it's very dark and very contrasty. I don't think this quarter circle is working in the bottom. Next. Sort of a jumble. I'm not sure what you think is the most interesting part of the photograph, what you want to share with me. Maybe it's the chair. There's a lot going on here. I'm not sure where to look, but I have to admit, I'm sort of intrigued by this. Let's move on. I'm intrigued. Not much going on here. It's a cool wall, but it just seems like a straight shot. Photographer walked up, took a picture, kept walking. I think this needed to be worked harder. There's more story here. Maybe by getting in closer, I think that might have helped. Next. Here's a photo. Boy, I hope the photographer can go back to this. The front spike is out of focus. That hurts the image. The back ones are a little bit out of focus. But here's a case where some really good tonal control could make a powerful image. I think it's composed nicely. The tones of the stuff in the lower left corner are the same as the tones in the spike. So we got to do something to separate with tones, separate the key things you want me to look at from the things that you want to kind of hide in the image. I hope you go back, photograph it again, get it all sharp, as much, a bigger depth of field, and then come back and spend, a couple of hours working on the tones. It ain't easy. Black and white ain't easy. Next. Pretty cool image. I mean, what what raises our interest level in things like this is we don't get to see stuff like this in much in America. And so this brings back so many memories of trips to Europe that we can't do now. And so it has a pleasing effect for me. I think from a tonal control standpoint, almost all the tones are in the mid-range or the darks. There's not many bright things. And I think some of these, the mortar and the bricks is a thing that could be brightened up, and it would just make the photograph have a lot more punch, but it's all kind of dimmed down. There is some decent light. I kind of like the shadows on the foreground. I think they add a little bit of drama, as does this wall on the right, although normally I would say that's kind of a clunky place to put a big object, but in this case, it seems to fit the story. Next, please. The first thing that jumps out to me is how flat the light is and how the tones are all in the muddy to dark range, except for this brilliant white triangle up at the top, which my eye is going to go there. It's got a lot of visual weight because it's white. It's in contrast with its surroundings, and mostly because of its location in the frame. The perimeters and the corners pull us. We can't help it. And I go there and there's nothing there. So I want to like the different shapes in the wall, but too many distractions and not enough quality light. Next. I found this photo very interesting. Maybe everybody in the world but me knows where this is, but I thought this is the most unique scene, and I've never seen anything like this. What I appreciate about what the photographer did is the way he or she lined up all the faces behind this primary face in the middle left. There are a bunch of faces going down behind where you can see an eye of one person, and then an eye and a nose of the next person, and maybe an eye of the next. I just think the point of view was particularly good. And then between him and the second largest guy, which almost looks like Lyndon Johnson, maybe it is, there's a bunch of faces which all got into the picture. So I think it's quite remarkable. Yeah, a lot of interest in this. Next. Photographers on the right track. It's awfully dark and contrasty. I think reducing the contrast would strengthen this photo and adding a little bit of light. Everything appears to me to be way in the midtones and the darks, except for some of these letters and numbers on the license plates. So it feels like the image is awfully dark. I do think the subject material is neat because I immediately wanted to go see what years the license plates were. Next. So the photographer has a difficult subject because it's very hard to get all this within the depth of field. But I think he or she wanted me to go look at the sharp points on this flower, and that worked. And even the stuff hanging down from the flower, I'm compelled to go look at all that stuff because it's sharp. And I'm not sure that this thing is in the best place in the frame. There's an awful lot of stuff going on to the left, which is not contributing. I think you could almost cut all that off. But I understand that you wanted this sort of graceful S-shaped in the stem. I think this is worth playing with composition to see if you can remove some space, some things, some areas, and bring more attention into the primary subject. Next. Nice tonal control, by the way. Next. Want to love the photo. The pattern in this leaf is so cool. And And so I go there and then I've got this large mass of out of focus stuff in front of the primary subject. And I can't overstress to people that I think this is always a big risk. You know, people like to take a picture of a beautiful cathedral and with an arch of trees framing the cathedral, and then the trees are out of focus, and it kills a photo. So yeah, I think this has got the problem that the light and the tonality is beautiful on the lattice work inside this leaf. Next. I thought this was rather clever, and I'm not sure why. It looks like a really old car. The wall seems so fitting. I thought it had an interesting graphic feel. I think there are other compositions that would work here. I think, for example, you could cut off 25% of the right side and have a square picture that would also work. Maybe work better. I'm not saying go do that. Love the texture in the back wall. I find myself looking around. It's a pretty simple picture, but I'm looking around and caught up in it. Next. Nice tones, by the way. Not much going on here. This almost feels like a photograph taken out of a car with the wrong focal length. I don't know. There's nothing notable here except for, is that an Interstate 270 sign? That's kind of a neat touch if that's what it is. But there's an awful lot of foreground that's repetitive and doesn't contribute to the story that I think could be removed. Maybe that would help this photo a lot. Next, please. I got kind of caught up in this photo. I think it is a photo of somebody else's work, but it's an unusual point of view, I think. It's a little frustrating that the upper hand's fingertips were hidden behind this dark part of the structure. I'm not sure. It's hard to read this photograph, and it's hard to read what this dark thing is in the front, but it also adds a lot of graphics and mystery to the photo. So I'm left feeling it's mysterious and thinking that the photographer brought a unique vision to the scene. Nice tonal control. Next, please. I think you want me to look at the whole tractor, and the whole tractor isn't sharp. Is there a place in the tractor you want me to look and you don't want me to look at the rest of it? Well, there's a little bit of sharpness along the top, but is that where you want me to look? So again, depth of field really, really matters on these things. Where you want me to look is where you want to make it sharp. Next, please. This is pretty unique. I found myself studying this picture, say, what the heck is going on here? And I really like the old stove. It's a nice, sharp picture. I think there are things that could be done to improve this photograph. For example, the tonalities of the foliage is very similar to that of the stove, and I would try to do something to separate that. There are all these white things in the background are grabbing my attention, and when I get there, they're just sort of white stones or shells, or I'm not sure what they are, but they are pretty distracting. So I think with tonal control, you need to figure out how to get my attention more to where you want me to look. The stove is tilted to the right. I think straightening that out would be helpful. But I'm caught up in this image because it's so unique. Next. This is one of the better truck photos we've seen. It's composed really well. there's a lot of stuff going on here, but it's all wrapped up nicely. From the door handle, which just shines off the page, to the front headlight room, and then my eye goes there, it goes to the diamond on the door, goes up to the cracked glass on the top. There's things to go look at, and I want to go look at them. A little more tonal control down low. I think the tire could be brought out a little bit more separated from the grass at the bottom. There's an absence of brights in here, and I think a few here and there would help, but a strong image next. Yeah, I think you want me to look at the gas cap. I think the whole gas cap isn't sharp. I think the rim of the next to the gas cap is sharp. So I think that the depth of field is off. There's not enough here to really grab my interest. I do like the texture on the top of the cap, but I'm sort of losing it as I go to the back of the cap. It's so soft. Next. This image doesn't feel right at all. The silos don't tilt like that. I think this needs to be straightened out, and the tree in the upper left corner is impinging into the picture with that heavy branch. That's pulling my eye up there because it's in the corner. It's in a lot of contrast with its surroundings, so it's got a lot of visual weight. The wheels in the front are disappearing into the dark, so I can't see much detail there. I don't think this photograph is working. Next. Not enough going here to capture interest, plus the tones are all mid-tone and dark. There's not enough tonal range. I'm not sure what the story is. Next. This is different. It seems, I haven't seen this scene before. Like, how could there be so many chains together? So I kind of was caught up by that. The coloring and it seems awfully harsh. The contrast seems awfully harsh. It seems a little soft in the upper right quadrant. When you're going to get up close to a subject like this, I think it demands sharpness. Next, please. I don't think there's enough going on in this image to be particularly compelling. Plus, the sharpest part of this image is the grass in front of the tub. I think that sweep of black stuff and white stuff in the tub is where it would have been most interesting to have it sharp. So I think this is another depth of field issue. Next, please.
I think that's it.
Okay.
Okay.
I feel funny about harping on this depth of field and sharpness stuff tonight, but that's just what's happening tonight. And you can go watch me judge another club, and I might not run into this, and I won't be harping on it all night.
Everything's good. All right, you want to tell me what's in and out?
Oh, okay. Sorry. Out.
Nope, it's fine. Oh.
Out. 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 In. Out. In. 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 Out. In. Out. In. Out. In. In. Out. 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 And what's our count? What do we need?
We need 5.
Okay,
There's 8.
we have 8.
Yeah.
Okay, so everything I take out now will be with reluctance. I'm going to remove the first image based on tonal control.
Okay.
I'll remove the third image because of composition. And I will remove the second image because of tonal control. First place is the first image. Second place is the second image. Third place is the fifth image.
Okay. Hold on just a second.
Okay.
Let's see. First honorable mention is the moose antlers on stove, Bernice.
Yeah, that's mine. It was taken up in Alaska, and actually the stove was a lot more crooked than what you're seeing because it had literally sunk into the ground. And so I straightened it as much as I dared before it looked too awkward.
Very cool.
Okay.
And the next one is Take My Hand by Elizabeth.
Oh, great.
Hi, so this image was taken actually in Spain by the Montserrat Museum. And it was a statue that I saw when we were going up the hill to the chapel in the mountain.
What's the black thing? Is that part of the same statue as the hands?
Yeah, it's all part of the same statue. It's a young girl holding the I guess I can't remember now, but the saint, a young girl holding a saint's hand.
Okay. Interesting.
Thank you.
The third image is Not Fit to Travel, Bernice again.
That also was taken in Alaska, and it was just sitting on the side of the road when we're driving around.
Wow.
So just look at your histogram for a second there. What you see, you're missing a lot of higher, highlights and in it. You see it, so it tends to be a little on the muddy side, meaning mid-tones and darks. I think it would benefit from a little brightening here and there.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Number 2 is Ride to Nowhere, and that is Elizabeth.
Oh.
So that's pretty exciting. So this was actually taken at Luckett's, and it was the side of a car leaning against an old barn.
So it's just the side. That's so cool.
The side, yeah.
Yeah, that I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah.
Right.
Now I can see it.
Very cool.
Thank you.
All right, Justina.
Yay, Justina.
Thank you. So this is located in Williamsburg on a private field, and it's 42 heads of presidents.
That is most unusual. I think that you got a really good point of view on it.
Thank you.
It would have been so easy to obscure faces,
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah, these heads are 30 feet tall, each of them.
Yeah. They're huge.
You should try to get there. It's private, so there is a photographer down there. I'd have to find his name, and he sets up.
It's John Plashaw.
Oh, Bradshaw.
Plashaw, I think he does the abandoned Virginia.
Ah.
So he does the tours for that park.
Yeah.
I got it from him.
Yeah, really cool. All right.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to jump into experienced color. We have 17 for this first one.
That's right. And this is, again, 5 images to choose for second, third, 2 honorable mentions.
Okay.
Absolutely love the scene. And it's cool that you can go from one room into the next. The color palette is working. I'm guessing this is an HDR image because it's very flat. And I think it's too flat to feel real. And I think that a little more darks and lights would strengthen this photo, but it's beautifully composed. Everything's working for it except for the flatness of the light and the color. Well, the colors aren't flat, but the flatness of the light from some processing effect. Okay, next. This is quite a place. It's a bit dazzling. So I can't square away from myself why the walkway is blue, and it makes me feel like this thing has been heavily saturated. It just feels awfully saturated. Now, you can argue that these paintings are extremely colorful and everything, but it feels overdone. I do think it's a strong composition, and you just want to walk down there, and then I'm not sure what the woman's looking at, but she's looking out, and I think that's kind of cool. Next. This is drop dead gorgeous. I've seen a lot of star shots. This is a particularly nice, strong, technically strong star shot. But to have this soft light on this rusty vehicle in the middle of nowhere is magical. So I find this to be a very compelling image. The light is that whatever the person did to get the light here has been done extremely well. Next. It's a nice view. I don't feel it's particularly special. I think we're in the advanced level now, right? I think the advanced photographers need to bring more to the scene that's unique. In a collection of truck photos, and where you want to see what the brand is, that this is fine, but I don't think it's carrying the day. Maybe better as a black and white photo, not sure. Next. Beautiful colors, nice texture in the letters. That's all for me that's going in this image. As a title photograph for an exhibit, this would be really cool if it was an art exhibit or if it was artsy photographs. But as a standalone photograph, it's just, I don't think there's enough of a story here. Next. So I really like what the photographer worked towards here. This is a unique view, I would imagine, of this place. I think the structure itself is interesting, and I like the missing pieces in the circles. I think that adds a lot of interest. I think the brown and blue treatment is working here. The tones are very well managed. I do a lot of architectural photography, and I'm particularly sensitive to tilts and perspective, keystoning of photos. And for example, one of my mantras is, if you are trying to make a photograph symmetrical, it's got to be dead on symmetrical. I think your intention was to make this symmetrical, but I see more space to the left of the columns than I do to the right. And I also see a tilt of the ground and the background. It's higher on the left than on the right. These things can be addressed in Lightroom, and I think they should be, to polish this image up. But it's a strong image. um, from the standpoint of uniqueness and execution. Next. This, I found this to be very appealing and overcooked. I think the saturation slider got away from the photographer. I would pull back on that orange. But I think it's a really cool image. This looks like an old Fiat or something. I'm not sure. The brick wall is really fascinating. All the wires. This photograph is close, just needs to be brought a little bit closer to reality. Next. Beautiful. The structure itself, the ironwork, is a very graceful thing. And then to have this candle dripping down and a flame in it, it's a very appealing image. I think that the whites in the candle are a bit bright and should be toned down, or filled with a little bit of pink from the red. I think that would help the photograph, but it's not really much decay, but it does have rust, so I think it meets the guidelines. It's a lovely image. Next. There's not enough going on here, which I find unique. I think we've all seen these mushrooms. The background is quite striking. But this is not standing out as a unique image in this collection. Next. I think the point of this photograph is the sun star, because that is so overriding and pulling all my attention to the sun star. The car is sort of lost in the shadows. And also from a composition standpoint, we have these flowers falling off the bottom of the photograph. Might have been better to remove the bottom left one and the bottom right one, just have one flower that's in its entirety. But I think that maybe you could lift up the shadows in the rest of the picture. But right now it's a picture about a sun star. Next. I thought this is pretty cool. First of all, forgetting the letters, the color palette and the shapes are great in this picture. And so I do have a fondness for rust and peeling paint off the metal surfaces. And I think this is strong, especially these orange streaks above the Q. They add so much, and their color is compatible with the turquoise in the upper right corner. Then you come to the letters. Well, what word could possibly have a Q and a J next to it? That raised my curiosity. And I'm thinking, well, maybe it's something that is not a real word. But I kind of want to know, and I want to know what these two rectangles are next. Is that place where other letters went? So it's, in addition to being a beautiful photograph, there's the intriguing elements from the letters. Let's keep it in. Next, please. Nothing unusual here. It strikes me as a rather ordinary image of a great old bicycle. Next, please. This is a case where I feel that the out of focus chain in the front is, and the structure behind it, this triangular structure behind it, they needed to be within the field of view. I think the background is very distracting, especially the left 2/3 of the background. with the brown and white. It would be helpful if that were toned down, but I think without this structure being sharp, I think I'm forced to go just to the wheel, and I miss the whole right side of the photograph because I'm not inclined to go there. Next, please. Yeah, I thought this was kind of unique. I don't know what these things are. And somebody's written all over them and painted them up. It just, there's almost something humorous about how badly they were treated when they seemed like they were important electrical devices. I think there's a story here. I think the color palette is cool. Yeah, neat, interesting photo. Next. There are things to like about this photo. The light on the truck is soft. Looks like a lot of bullet holes in the window, which is sort of interesting. This is probably the Palouse based on the Washington plates. The desert or the farmland and the background is works for this image. I feel like the image, the truck is too dark. It's not jumping off the page. It's too much the same tone as the trees. And I think it could be brightened up. For me, what hurts this image is this tree trunk on the right. I think this photograph would be stronger if you removed it, both possibly by cropping and possibly by cloning, but it's pulling me out of the frame. It's a notable thing, so I go to it, and it's got some interesting texture, but you don't want me looking at the tree, you want me looking at the truck. So I look for some way to get rid of that. Next, please. The light here is a bit harsher. This is a cool subject. The light's a bit harsh. The issue I'm having with the subject, it feels like the photographer saw the bus, photographed the bus, and got a decent angle. But maybe there was opportunities to work the scene to get a more unique image. It's a pretty ordinary shot of this unordinary bus. Next, please. Kind of a fun image. You see these trains just have tons of graffiti on them, and I think this captures the spirit of that. Interesting to see the large boulders on top of the trailer. The white sky is overpowering. It pulls my eye up there. I can't help it. And there's nothing there. I don't think it's helping the photograph. Maybe it should all be cut off, but it's just overpowering. Next, please.
I think that's it.
Okay.
Okay.
How many photos do I supposed to get?
5?
5?
Yes.
Okay, this one is a darn. I'm going to keep it, but darn, I wish the tones were better. This is out.
Okay.
This is in. Out. Out. In. 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 Out. Out. In. Out. Out. In. Out. 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 I thought I saw another image that didn't come into the online, that didn't make it into the competition.
Oh, no. Do you think maybe it was in the black and white?
No, it was a photograph of, yeah, it was a black and white photograph of a woman standing in a doorway, sort of posing in a doorway. Oh, maybe it's coming up.
Yeah,
Okay.
these are coming up. We're
Oh,
still in
my
color.
mistake, my mistake. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I thought this was the last group.
No.
Okay. So we're down, how many do I'm supposed to get one more out? Two more out.
2 out.
Oh, boy.
Can you
They're
see
get-
everything okay?
Yeah, they're getting really good. They're getting really good. Well, really, oh darn, I'm going to take out the first one because of its absence of depth of tones. And I will take out the last photograph. I do like it. At this point, got to be tough. First place clearly goes to the first image. Second place goes to the last image. And third place goes to the second image.
So let's go down here to get my honorable mentions in. Is this one is the cross candle is Pamir.
Yes, thanks. Yeah, it was rust. I thought candle would be more like decay, but yeah, thanks.
You made it under the wire with the rust.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see, the next one is Pat, and this is called Rusty Beetle.
Hi, scrapyard in Bangkok, Thailand. I can see what you say about oversaturated, but I did this for print on the canvas, so it kind of have to pump up the color. But I'll see what you're saying.
Yeah, I think it'll look a lot better on electronic display if it's desaturated a bit.
This one is Denise, and I think it's called Decay.
Yeah, I don't even know what I called it, but so it is taken at Swannanoa, which is a mansion in, I think, Virginia, but it was taken with a fisheye. So it was deliberate that it was bent and bowed and sort of otherworldly. So I get your point, and I know exactly how to straighten architecture, but that wasn't what I was going for.
So to be clear, Denise, I didn't mean that the columns should be straightened. I meant that, for example, the horizon on the left was higher than the
Higher than
horizon
the
on
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And
But-
I see what you're saying, but I really actually focused, just so for clarity's sake, when I went to balance like straight lines,
Yeah.
the straight line at the back of the top circle, and then I think I was back a few pillars back to get the ground level there, and I didn't really overthink like the way background.
Yeah.
But I see your point. I was more really focused on this like front opening area.
Very,
But
very,
it was a
very
fisheye, so
strong.
I didn't want to straighten it too much. That's all.
Yeah. No,
At the end of the day.
it sure rings fisheye. That's, I mean, it's, yeah.
Yeah, I don't even think you could get this whole structure even with a super wide like regular lens at all. But it's a
Yeah.
cool place.
Nice job.
Thank you.
Cheryl, you're
Sorry, you're muted, Cheryl. Cheryl, you're muted.
Okay, so this one is aptly titled QJ, and it's Robert Miller.
Thank you. So this is a electric power box in my neighborhood, and apparently Dominion isn't keeping track of the condition of their electric boxes. So I saw this on a walk one day, and I thought, "Wow, look at that! That's in crappy shape." So I went back with my camera, and this is what I got. It's pretty cool.
It is.
It is beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, they might not care. They might be monitoring, but they might not care.
Right.
All right, number 1 is called The Drive-In Theater by Samantha.
Yep. So this is actually a composite, and I took the shot of the car during the day.
Wow.
And the sky was totally blown out. And then I did purposely use like an app on my phone to know where the Milky Way was going to be that day. And we took the Milky Way at a different spot, but it was that direction on that horizon. So it's kind of real.
Well,
and then I painted out all the shadows. I just did a lot of paint work to it.
I think when we see pictures like this, we know they have to be composite.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's so magical the way you pull this off.
Thanks.
I think this is really a superior image.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just want to point out, if anybody sees the Milky Way, this is the dark horse right here. And it looks like he's on the horizon, like doing a thing, like, jumping up. I didn't even see that until after I made the piece.
I see it.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I saw it like a week after I finished it. So, okay. I'm gonna jump to
Home stretch.
Huh?
Home stretch.
Almost done, yes. And with this one, we have 15, I think.
15 images, so we get to choose 4 for second, third, and an honorable mention.
Okay.
Absolutely love the view, and the tones seem like they've been squished through HDR type thing. I don't know if it's HDR, but I wish there was more three-dimensionality to the thing with walls that are perpendicular to each other having different tones. So it's a fabulous view, creative. And maybe it can be solved by just increasing contrast. I'm not sure, but something's been pulled out of the image by its processing. Next. This is the image that I thought was missing. I thought she was strangely out of place in the scene. This may be the same place as that other image we saw, where there was a woman looking out and away from this, and it seemed it conveyed sentiments that were very different from this. This kind of feels like, hey, here I am at the cool place. And I think she's detracting from the scene. Nothing wrong with her, of course, but I think that her presence here is detracting from the scene. Next. Samantha, this can't be your car that you just shot with the stars.
It is. And now I look at it, and it's not even in focus. So you could just skip this one.
Is this your photo?
Yeah.
I'm not allowed to ask, but this, what?
Just skip it.
Yeah, this is it. Okay, let's move on. This is not working. Next. I thought this photograph had some merits. From what I like about it is the way the curved nature of the boards is working with the feeling like the trees and the clouds are sort of exploding in an outward direction. It felt like almost like a concave mirror making these things explode upwards. So I thought that was kind of an interesting effect. And it's an intriguing building with a lot of texture. I think it was composed too tight. A little bit of room on either side would have added something, given a little more breathing room to the photo. Next, please. I felt this was a very ordinary view. The building it's so much in the dark, I really can't tell what's going on, and we're just looking at one wall of the building instead of multiple or two walls. The fog's kind of nice. Awful lot of grass in the front. 40% of the picture is grass. I don't think this photograph is working. Next. This is a very imaginative photograph. The place is crazy. The chairs, like, what are these chairs doing in this place? It makes you ask all these questions. But then this ghost figure, it's one thing to have a ghost figure in a picture, but she is in such a compelling position. She looks like she's hiding from the COVID or something like that. I mean, it's conveying depression and isolation and loneliness in a very strong way. So I think the image creates quite a visceral reaction in me, and it's well done. Next. Want to love this image. It's a cool subject, and we don't all get there, and so there's so many things to like about it, but so much information is lost in the darkness of this picture. It's a very contrasty, dark image, so we don't get to enjoy what's going on. And maybe that was the intent, but I think this photograph would benefit a lot from more information in the darks and not so much contrast. It's well composed. Next. I didn't feel particularly moved by this plant. It's not all sharp, but that aside, it's not a particularly lovely or graceful plant. Maybe somebody would feel differently about it. So I don't feel like it's one of the stronger images. Next. My question is, what are you trying to get me to look at? I think you want me to look at the iron. Iron's not all sharp. So do you want me to look at the front of the iron? I don't think so. I think this is a case where you want me to look at the whole iron. Now, it's not always the case. Sometimes if you put a flower in front of me and you just sharpen the very center of the flower, well, that tells me, well, I can't help it, but I'll go there and look because you've told me through your technique that's where you want me to look. I think this photograph is close, but depth of field is hurting it. Nice tonal control. Next. This photograph is on the edge. I really like the shapes. I think they are, I guess they're chains, but it just seems so different from normal chain views. I think parts of the chain go in and out of focus. I don't mind the part of the chain that's way in the dark part being out of focus. The one coming down the left to the left corner, I kind of wish that were sharper. The other thing that's odd is the sudden bright background on the right, where we have a black background on the left. And that's a little jarring. I think this photograph is close. I think it might be helpful to tone down the right side. I'm not even sure you need all of that space to the right of the chain, because it gets repetitive and the same old. I'm looking at my screen, it's like 1.5 inches of just repetition. Next, please. just love this image. This is a great place. I guess it's some kind of mill, yarn. They're making yarn here, I guess. See a lot of spindles. So there's a lot of things to go look at. They're interesting things. I want to go look at them. The tones are such that I can see the details everywhere in the dark areas, and yet there's still a nice spread of tones. The window tonality makes sense. It's the source of light for this place. The light on the ceiling is pretty. So many things working for this image. Very nicely done. Next. Yes, this is a little grisly. I feel repelled by the image. It's not very pleasing, and I guess some people might say, well, you know, you should be open to everything, but I feel a little grossed out and sad by it. Next. So what's interesting here is I think this is the same building that we saw in the novice category. It sure looks like it. But and this is nice and sharp. The light has been managed very well. The dark shadows are managed well here. You can still see stuff. But I think that the novice photographer actually did a couple of things better than this. And for one thing, here the building is sort of dead center in the photograph. And then you have a lot of visual weight from this cloud up on the upper left corner. And whereas the novice pushed the building over to the right and balanced it with the cloud, here I end up with a photograph that's center and left heavy, leaving nothing on the right, and a lot of vacant sky space as a result. So I think compositionally, that one was better. I hate to compare them, but they're so identical that it is helpful to compare. The other thing is there's a processing artifact on the horizon here, especially at the horizon just under the cloud. Looks to me like the photographer darkened down the sky, and in the course of doing that, caught the edge of the grasses, and they got dark too. And I see a little bit of that on the right horizon on the right of the building too. And it's just, you might say, does anybody really care? And I guess my answer is, yeah, I do care. I don't want to see processing artifacts in my own images at all. I don't want you to know that I've processed it. I don't want you to know where I've cloned or where I've hidden, you know, darkened the sky. And I think this is a dead giveaway. And so I think it's a surprisingly big detractor. Next, please. I like the composition here. Even though the headlight's kind of dead center, we've got three things going on here with this curved grill in front of the vehicle, and then all these beautiful vines in front. Some people don't like to see these old dead leaves and vines in these old car photos. I happen to think they add a lot of story to it. So the tones here are beautifully managed. I think it's a rather compelling story. Next. So my first reaction was this was a little ordinary until I started looking at it more, which is I saw layers of age. Up at the top, I think we're looking at aluminum siding. And then as you come down, you're looking at probably asphalt shingles. And then you come down further, you're looking at old wood. And now I'm getting a sense that this building's been around a long time. And to the best of people's ability, they've tried to maintain it with limited success, apparently, or they're about to fix it up. And I do have old buildings give me a nice warm fuzzy feeling. I think these windows, the lower window is really pretty with the reflection of the trees in it. So it's a different view. It's a different story than we usually see. I like the 3 layers of time. Next.
And that's it for that one.
Okay, and how many photos are we looking for?
4.
Okay.
In, out, out, in.
Hold on this one.
I'm sorry, in,
Okay.
out, in, out, 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 in, out, out, in. Oh boy.
If you do feel like you want to give an extra one, you can. But that's
Well,
still,
let's-
you have to get rid of 2.
Let's see what I can do here. Boy, I hate to do this. I'm going to remove the first image because of its tonal control. It's just such a cool image. I hope the photographer fixes that up and recompetes it. The first image here, I'm also going to remove it because it's squeezed. I need to get rid of one more.
Yeah.
It's funny, the chain looks better here than it does up close because of the vignetting around the corners. But I didn't see the vignetting when I looked at it close. Can we zoom in on that picture for a sec? Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, we can go back out. I'm going to toss up between 2 and 5. And I think I am going to remove number 2.
Okay.
And the first photo is number 1. This is funny. The second photo is number 2. The third photo is number 3.
Okay.
Just a coincidence.
Yeah.
All right. So let's see, we have, let me make sure I'm, okay. This one is called Sighting, and it's by Tom England.
Hey, Tom, you still on?
He was on earlier.
Yeah, he might have hopped off. Okay.
Oh, he says his mic is broken. He says thank you.
Okay.
Number 3 is Headlight by Nikki.
Yay, Nikki.
It's taken down at Columbia, Virginia. There's a truck graveyard, so just the very front of a truck with lots of twine growing all over it.
Okay, number 2 is The Silk Mill by Michael.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, that was, I think a lot of you have been there. It's the Lona Koenig's Silk Mill a few years ago when we were still able to go there.
Yeah.
Well, I've seen so many photos of the silk mill, but this one just really, as a grand view, is very striking.
Thank you.
And the first one is Denise, and it's called Mental.
That was taken years ago at Penhurst Asylum. wherever it is. I think
Where
it's
you
in-
were staying.
yeah, I was locked in, and I obviously I didn't take it with me ghosted, but it took some doing to get me to be faded. But I liked the effect of me faded more than I liked the effect of me not faded. I'm getting asked if it's HDR. It was probably HDR'd. At the time, it would have been something I would have been doing. It was dark in there, so yeah. But
Well,
anyway.
It doesn't, that doesn't scream off the image, you know.
Yeah, I try not to, and I work really hard at trying to make my HDRs. I mean, I had my HDR days where I'm embarrassed to actually ever look at them, but I try to tone them down so they feel natural. So thank you.
This is lovely. This is really well done, Denise. Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And the dog, the thing that like Chihuahua that grossed you out, that was taken at, what'd you say?
That's mine.
That was Jeff's, but it was taken at Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. He went into some room and there was a dog nicely placed on a toilet.
Ooh, I thought it was a bat or something. Ooh,
No, it's like it's like a Chihuahua. Totally gross. Totally gross.
Everyone was photographing in the main room, and I looked around the corner of this wall, and there was this dog there, and I'm like, "Ooh, I gotta get a picture of that."
So, anyway, thanks.
Well, it was definitely decayed.
So I did see somebody in the chat room ask if Roy does focus stacking. And the answer is I do. Not all the time, but I do. I'm very, when I get up close to things, I'm very sensitive about depth of field, and sometimes I just can't get there.
Mm.
So, yeah. But I'm not saying you should focus stack your way out through everything. Sometimes you should be able to handle it with your f-stop.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, so
Yep, that's the show.
Well, it's down between two images. It's down between Denise's black and white and the sky, the stars in the car.
Okay.
And
Oops. I was gonna see if I could pull them up together because I'm smart like that.
These two photos are so different. I think they're both masterfully done. I do think that I find the star photo a little more compelling. And so I'm going to go with it, but you know, if I did this tomorrow night, I might come up with the other answer. You know, you ask judges to be consistent. Yeah, lots of luck. With the 99 to 100 rating, you know, between these two photos, I'm going to go with the star photo.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Sam.
Thanks. Also, I forgot to say that's Death Valley, and Denise took us there.
Yeah, I was standing right there
You were
when it
standing
was
right with
daylight.
me. Well, I took that shot.
I don't remember stars
during-
behind the car.
Yeah, during the day, Sam. But you know what? I have to go with what you say here, Roy, because when Sam shared that with me a long time ago, and it is absolutely remarkable what she did with an image of something that was like white hot and bright daylight. And her picture is really beautiful. So
Yeah.
no regrets on my end. I think
All
you're
right.
right.
That's gracious of you, Denise.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you so much this was a wonderful critique evening too. It was really, really good.
I hope that people understand my rationale for removing images, and that maybe I was able to coach a few things here and there. I want to be clear about my rationale. If you feel like you don't understand why I did something the way I did, I invite you to email me, and I'll try to, and if you would email the image with it. I'm hoping not to get hundreds of emails, but I don't want you to be left wondering, why did he take that out when he liked it so much, this kind of thing. So let me know if you got a problem. And thank you all for the invitation. I'm honored to be invited to judge at your club.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Roy. Good job.
Good.
All right. All right, everybody. We'll see you on the 11th.
Great, see ya.
Thank you.
Thank
Night.
you.
Bye.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night, Roy. Thank you.
Good night.